Hey guys, welcome back to another relationship story. What would you do if your parents demanded that you buy them a house and pay all the bills? Let's dive right in the video to find out what OP did. Back when I was 17 years old, my parents decided to kick me out for a bunch of really dumb reasons, honestly. The biggest one being that I did not follow in their footsteps with their political beliefs. They hated that and how instead of just listening and obeying, I would question the things that they were saying. But the issues I had with them actually started before I even understood enough to get that opinion. My younger sister and brother were their golden children, and it was clear that they wanted a girl and liked her better. Why my brother got better treatment, I have no idea. I had chores while they had none and yet still ended up getting a bigger allowance. When I got a job, they tried to tell me that I had to split the money with them just because they were my siblings and we had to be fair. And when I refused, we got into this huge fight that ultimately ended with me being kicked out of the house. I don't know what lies they told the extended family, but it was probably me being a troubled child and a danger to everybody. I'll admit that due to the build-up stress from home, I was getting into fights at school and not seen as the greatest kid. Once I left, I felt like I could breathe for the first time and managed to start my way onto a career path in life. My grades plus low income meant college was off the table unless I wanted to pay huge amounts of money, so instead I went to trade school and learned how to be an electrician. I was good at it too, and with work and my own apartment and girlfriend, I was feeling stable and happy. Now jump to modern day and I'm 34 years old and I own an electrician company. It is small and just me, another guy and 2 apprentices. Still, being the boss feels great, and after years of hard work I managed about 2 years ago to get a mortgage on my home for my wife and me. We had a small wedding and my family was not told about it since I have not spoken to them since I was 17 and they kicked me out. Suddenly my parents found out where I live and showed up at my house out of the blue. They aged badly and I did not recognize them at first. They started to pretend like they missed me and how I'm doing so well for myself, talking about the house looking nice, and I could tell that it was all surface level fake and they must want something if they are crawling back to me. I was right. Father, I can see you're doing well for yourself with this house. We wanted to give you some time to get a life together before we came back for our dues. Me, your dues? Mother, we raised you for 17 years. Food off our table, money out of our pockets. We are getting older now and need to recuperate our losses. Me, stop talking in riddles and just tell me what the hell you want. Father, don't use that language in front of your mother. Me, last I checked, I did not have a mother or father. Mother, stop it. We need you to buy us a house. Or just give us this one since it seems to be pretty big anyway. After all, we are family and you need to take care of us. I really thought she was joking, but no, they wanted me to buy them a house. If you are like me, you might be wondering what the hell happened to their other house, and well, they gave it to my sister after she went to college and majored in art or something that she couldn't get a job with. As for my brother, he didn't even go to college and instead has been living and mooching off of my parents the entire time. I told them flat out that I was an electrician and I did not have a ton of money to just buy someone a house. On top of that, I was not gonna give them anything after the fact that they abandoned me when I was young for no good reason. Finally, I tried to explain to them that having kids means you are willing to give them food and shelter with no expectation of getting the money back from them when they grow up. It's called being a parent, and maybe if they were decent ones I would have some sympathy or wanna help them. But oh man, it gets worse, because it turns out since they had some of my information, they ran a credit check on me and found that I had amazing credit. I did because I don't live outside of my means, and I was also blessed with having the luck of no emergencies that put me in the hole. My father explained to me and spoke down like I was 5 years old that good credit means I can just get a loan. They wanted me to get another house and use my good credit as leverage for another mortgage, therefore putting my current house up as collateral insurance. I exploded at them. Me, are you both really that dense that you think I would do a damn thing for you? You could have come here asking for $5 to save your life and I would tell you the same thing I'm telling you now. Go F yourselves and try to mooch off the 2 children that you managed to keep in your lives. I'm sure if either one of them opened their eyes for 2 seconds, they would also see that you are horrible people. My father tried to tell me off again for cursing, but I did not care, and instead unleashed a string of swears that would make a sailor proud. They left, but it was not the last that I heard from them or other family members. They shared my information and they managed to get, so I was getting phone calls and texts from relatives and decided that if this is how they wanted to play, I was gonna get back at them. I found out the lies they told my aunts and uncles about running away or being violent at home. Instead, I told them exactly why I'd been kicked out of the house and why I don't want to help them after they did all of this to me. My extended family was not happy to hear this and turned on my parents, telling them it was wrong to try and force me to buy them a house and what they did to me in the past. The only ones that stayed on the side of my parents were my brother and sister, who honestly were probably just brainwashed at this point. I then blocked their numbers for the 4 of them, going no contact and truly keeping them out of my lives. I did meet up with my aunt and cousins, which was nice to at least have some of my old family back. I did not need my parents when I was 17 and I did not need them when I was 34 and getting my life on a good track. Last I heard, nobody was talking to them either anymore, so by harassing me they lost all of their family and know how it feels now. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I'm curious, if you would have been in OP's shoes, what would you have done? Would you have helped your parents financially? Let me know in the comments. The next one is titled, My Husband Wants Me Dead. My husband Nick was married to his first wife Vanessa for 5 years and they had 2 amazing kids. Luke, 15 male, and Lila, 13 female. Sadly, Vanessa died in an accident 11 years ago when the kids were very young. I started dating Nick 8 years ago and we started off very slowly for obvious reasons. Nick has always been a little more distant than anyone I'd ever been with, but he and the kids lost Vanessa so young that I understood it. After 3 years of dating, Nick asked me to marry him and I moved in. I've always had a great relationship with Luke and Lila and they were happy for me to marry their dad. I had wanted an actual wedding, nothing big, but Nick really did not want one, so we got married at the courthouse with just Luke and Lila present. We had a really fast engagement, but it worked for all of us. I've loved being Luke and Lila's stepmom and officially adopted them after I found out I was pregnant with our son Casey, 2 male. The kids have been so great with Casey and help out so much. Nick was wonderful during the pregnancy and had always been a really loving dad and husband. But Nick has been pulling away a lot the last few months. He's been even more distant than usual and working late nights and going away with friends almost every weekend. I've tried talking to him, but he's been impatient with both me and the kids. I found out I was pregnant in June and I'm now 21 weeks pregnant with a girl. The kids are excited to have a little sister, but Nick just seems so indifferent to everything and everyone. He's been missing soccer games, Lila's birthday, doctor appointments, etc. Casey is too young to notice, but Luke and Lila are so hurt by their dad's absence. These kids are so good and they lost their mom so young, and I'm infuriated that Nick is ignoring the kids like this. Last week I finally sat Nick down and told him that he needs to stop disappearing and be more present in our lives. We are going to have another child soon, and before we know it, Luke and Lila will be grown up and going to college. After an hour of arguing, he screamed at me that he wished Vanessa was still alive and that I'd switched places with her and died instead. He also threw in some awful comments that I needed to stop pretending that I'm Luke and Lila's real mom and that I'm only half the mom Vanessa was. The final straw was him saying that he never even wanted any kids with me, but did it so that I would keep busy and leave him alone. I'm so beyond hurt right now. I know I'm just his second choice, but I've always tried to honor Vanessa and tell Luke and Lila how lucky they were to have her as their mom. I love all of our kids more than anything, and I'm just so heartbroken. Nick barely pays attention to Casey now and does not even acknowledge the pregnancy. He somewhat apologized this weekend and took all 3 kids to lunch, but he won't even look me in the eye. He seems like he wants to talk, but he doesn't say anything, and I'm too upset to even be near him. I'm not sure where to go from here, honestly. I cannot even be around Nick right now, and if there weren't any kids involved, I would leave and never look back. I'm not sure if he's cheating or the thought of a 4th child is stressing him out, but I'm devastated and not sure how or why I should save this marriage, besides doing it for the kids, of course. Any advice is desperately needed right now. Update to the story. There's been a lot that has happened and there's no way to mention it all without writing a novel, so if I miss anything or someone wants to know more, I'll try to answer in the comments. I gave Nick a letter the day after I made my post. Thanks to the commenter who suggested this, I tried to explain how hurt I was by what he said and I wasn't sure how we had gotten to this place. I also tried to explain that I knew he was still in so much pain from Vanessa's death and I would never try to replace her. Even though I tried to be understanding of his grief and likely depression, I did not sugarcoat how badly hurt I was by what he said to me. I know grief is extremely complex, but it does not excuse telling your pregnant wife that you wished she was dead. It was a hard letter to write, but I tried to put forward some kind of resolution. If he meant what he said, then we would divorce as amicably as possible for the kids. If he did not mean it and was just lashing out, then we had to get couples counseling and he needed to get back to individual therapy if he wanted to stay together with me. Nick took the letter and locked himself in the guest room to read it. He didn't come out until the next morning, but he told me he needed to go away for a while and think. So he packed a bag, told the kids he had a business trip, and left that afternoon. Honestly, I figured our marriage was done as soon as he left. Luke and Lila knew that something was up, but I just kept telling them their dad had a big project for work and would be back soon. They were both upset, neither of them really believed the story about Nick's trip, so I set up some emergency sessions with their therapist so both of them would have someone to talk with. Nick was gone for over a week. There were a few short phone calls to ask how I was and talk to the kids, but it was a lot of radio silence during that time. He came home one afternoon when Luke and Lila were still at school and said that he needed to talk. I figured he was gonna ask for a divorce. He told me that he felt very guilty for being happy with his life now and like he was dishonoring Vanessa by living this new life with me. The guilt and sadness made him want to pull away and he hoped that I would let him, which I did. I was scared and didn't say anything until it was too bad not to, and then the fight happened. I blame myself for not communicating this correctly. He said he didn't mean the things he said and felt ashamed after he said them, but he just wanted me to leave him so that neither of us would be hurt anymore. I guess I was expecting to hear that, but it didn't make me feel better. After reading my letter, I guess it really drove home how much he had hurt the kids and I, so he left to see if he could fix himself and get back on track. He admitted he had been really depressed and needed and wanted help. I told him I meant what I said in the letter and that if he wanted to work through it, I would work with him. He was more emotional than I've ever seen him, so I believed he was really sorry for what he said. So we've been in marriage counseling and he's back in individual therapy as well. He still has a lot of guilt about Vanessa and I'm still hurting from everything he said and did, but I feel like we're slowly making progress with rebuilding the relationship. A lot of people brought up the fact that my life with Nick so closely mirrors what he had with Vanessa, and that's something we've been dealing with a lot in therapy. Obviously, it was not intentional, but it subconsciously put both of us on edge. Him waiting for something bad to happen, and me thinking that I'd never measure up. We've also been to family sessions with Luke and Lila's therapist, and it's been very helpful. Both of them told me talking to their therapist helps a lot, so I've made sure they have a weekly appointment. As terrible as the situation was for Nick and I feel like Luke and Lila have been amazing, mature, and wonderful throughout the whole thing. I'm so proud of them. Nick is really trying to make up for the things he missed while he was checked out, and he's been great with the kids. I've been having a lot of complications with my pregnancy, to be honest, but Nick has stepped up to help with everything. He's been to every doctor's appointment and has been very supportive of the pregnancy since he came back. I know he has an extreme amount of guilt from saying he never wanted Casey or the new baby, and he's been really trying to make up for that. We are all gonna stay in therapy as long as we need to, which is probably going to be a long time, but I feel more confident about our future as a couple and a family. I won't lie and say I'm positive everything has been fixed or that his words don't still hurt, but I feel like we are on the right path. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I'm happy for OP and the family that everything went sort of alright in the end and it seems like they are taking a good path. I really wish them the best for the future, but I'm curious, if you would have been in that situation, would you have forgiven your husband for this? Let me know what you think in the comments. The next one is titled, My Manager Blamed Me. The machine that takes in the bottles that have a deposit fee on them was broken. The machine could not scan the bottles, so the customers would not get their money back. A customer told me about it, so I told my manager, and he told me that I should take care of it because he was on break and the customers came to me. I told the customer that I could not help her and that she needed to come back some other time when it was fixed. My manager said that handling things in that way was also not acceptable. I started to get a little bit infuriated, so I decided to go back to work like I was supposed to do. Customers kept on coming to me with the same problem. So I went back to the manager who literally told me,
you're at work, customers complain to you, it's your problem.
I told my coworkers about it. They told me that it has happened before and that a mechanic was required to fix the problem. My manager got angry at me because I told him this. He told me that I needed to find a solution to the problem or I would get fired. I started thinking what I could do to fix it, but I could not figure it out, since I work at a grocery store as a 17-year-old who has never fixed something like this before. Then my stubborn side took over, so I decided to fix the problem my way. I took a broom and punched a hole in the seal that keeps the bottles from falling down. Then I put a big plastic bag on the other side of the machine for the bottles to fall into. My manager lost it and told me I need to fix it in a better way right now. So I put the plastic bag in his hands and told the 12 customers that were waiting for the machine to work to give their bottles to my manager and he would take care of it. The manager then sent me home as he was raging and yelling at everyone. The next day I had to work again and the mechanic was there to fix it. He told me that I had made the situation with the machine worse, but that he had to laugh when he heard the story about my manager. I then heard that my manager got fired by his boss for losing his cool and that I handled the situation very well. To this day, I still wonder what story was told to the boss, but I still have my job and the manager is long gone. The next one is titled, The New Store Manager is Me. So this happened some years ago. I had gotten a job working as a stock person loading the shelves for a crafts store. The hours were unholy, 3 AM to 9 AM. It took quite a bit of getting used to, and because the hours were evil, the pickings for such shifts were understandably slim. So it should be no surprise that the manager was the rotten scrapings at the bottom of a very dilapidated barrel. The store had this training system in-house on a computer where you got an account, read what amounted to slideshow notes on safety, about not setting yourself on fire, and a quick overall cliff notes about OSHA saying not to twist your back while lifting. Now see, that's what the average employee read, and even the slowest reader could zip through in 15 to 20 minutes or so. But that is not what my training manager gave me. She pulled up a training module, did not check that it was accurate and walked away, telling me to read it so I could get to work. The very first line of a massive training module said, "As the new store manager, you must know and understand the laws you must follow." Me, hang on. So I called over the walkie-talkie. Me, training manager, I think you gave me the wrong training manager. OP, I gave you the same training module that I gave everyone else. Me, training manager, I really think you should double check. Training manager now snapping, stop making excuses and get to it. Malicious compliance time. Now let me try to help you envision this monstrosity before me. Imagine a phone book scanned into the computer, divided into over 100 sections. Every subsection had between 5 and 20 sub-subsections. Every single sub-subsection was 20 pages long, in size 10 font, single-spaced. Details involved laws covering all those delightful little things like discriminatory practices in hiring and managing employees, sexual harassment, and all the ways a store manager could get themselves and the business sued by all and sundry, and how to avoid this fate at all costs. Or at least, that is how far I managed to read before my malicious compliance ended. There was still a lot left to read. Half an hour in, the training manager kicked me off and had me help shelves, berating me for taking so much time. I again told her that I had the wrong module, and again she told me to shut up and stop making excuses. She then went to the computer and closed my module, clearly without even acknowledging the gigantic screen of text instead of the neat little slideshow with pictures and big letters for 5-year-olds to read. Malicious compliance again. I tried twice and she was not listening. That was all I owed her. A month into my employment and training, I still had not completed reading the phone book, having been given only 30 minutes each day. Finally, the store manager, the actual store manager, came to see why I was incapable of completing a module that should have only taken me 15 minutes and that I really needed to improve my reading skills. Me, store manager. I can read just fine, but as the new store manager who will be taking over for you, I really must insist on reading the entire module. Store manager. I'm sorry? Me, training manager, told me to read the store manager training module, and I need actual time to get through it. If I'm not the store manager, then I need to be given the correct module. Store manager. Did you tell her that she had given you the wrong one? Me, yes, and I quote, and here I pitched my voice to imitate her angry snapping voice. I gave you the same training module that I gave everyone else. Stop making excuses and get to it. Back to normal voice, I told her twice and she just wouldn't listen. The store manager went very quiet. He silently took me into the break room, got me on the training computer there and removed the store manager module from my account and put the regular employee module up. I zoomed through that bad boy in less than 10 minutes and got on with my work. The store manager and training manager disappeared for a very long time. Epilogue. Sadly, the training manager did not improve her behavior in the following year of my employment at that company. She remained exactly as toxic, incompetent and a workplace bully right up until I reported her to the hotline with 6 typed up pages of documentation. The regional manager had to come in and put the fear of God and Satan into her before she got very quiet for my remaining few months of employment before I moved out of state. And yeah guys, if you cannot get enough of my content, please don't forget to check out my podcast by searching for Ripe Stories on all major podcast platforms such as Spotify, Apple or Google Podcasts. Furthermore, you can find bonus content by going to patreon.com/ripeyoutube or by clicking the join button here on YouTube. For a small monthly fee, you will get access to dozens and dozens of exclusive videos you won't find anywhere else. Thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you again tomorrow.